And by doing this, how am I going to inspire those that I'm going to ask to do it with me? How am I going to inspire them and give them meaning to want to do it with me? Because they get to choose. And now more than ever, I believe that the talent and the generations of the workforce right now more than ever want to work for a purpose-driven organization. And as an entrepreneur and a leader, you have to deliver that for them. If you don't, they're going to go somewhere else where they will.
Because life is not fulfilled for them. They're looking for something more than just, 9 to 5. They need a meaning in life.
Undoubtedly. It's like the generations now, and I believe this to be true for even the older generations. We just hadn't come to that realization yet. But I believe now one of the greater things that the current generation is bringing to the workforce is they're challenging entrepreneurs and leaders to give them meaning and give them purpose and give them something they can contribute to. And I think it's a good thing. There's a lot of people out there complaining about millennials and this workforce and all that stuff. And, when I listen to those things, Fernando, I'm like, okay, but let's talk about how are they challenging us to be better entrepreneurs and better leaders,
mm-hmm.
right? Because maybe we're part of the problem. So that I believe is the bigger question and call to action that we as leaders and entrepreneurs need to address. Like, okay, well, how are we changing? And how are we going to evolve and adapt so that we can make things better with them?
Yes, and changing a little bit the subject, you are in the human resources services, business to business space. However, do you see a kind of a common origin of conflicts or difficult situations between employees and employers in a corporation? Do you see that always there are 2, 3, or 4 causes, beyond money, because, everybody wants more money. But do you see there is a common denominator in all the, labor conflicts?
Yeah. I personally believe that the need for compassionate leadership has never been greater. And for far too long, Fernando, the mindset, the alpha myth have been out there that like the leadership chain is the IQ chain and the, hey, I'm the boss mentality and do as I say. Like, that doesn't work with anyone. And I believe that right now that the landscape is prime for leaders and entrepreneurs who are willing to be brave and courageous and lead with compassion and kindness and give their people relevance and give their people purpose. They're the leaders that are going to be the most successful because they're going to be able to give people that fulfillment that they're seeking now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And often people will view that as, hey, well, that's soft. I'm like, you sure about that? Because I've been practicing kindness and compassion for a long time. And last time I checked, it's a lot easier to get angry and snap at someone than to slow down, assume the best, and give them the benefit of the doubt. So often when I walk an entrepreneur or a leader through that, I start to shift their mindset pretty quickly.
That's so interesting. What would be your best advice for young entrepreneurs, people that want to launch their own business, have their own ideas, and they're dreaming with, I want to be my own boss and be an entrepreneur? What would be your best advice to them?
Fernando, here in a few weeks, I'm actually going to be speaking at a Hispanic startup weekend. And, Latino entrepreneurs, it's one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing entrepreneurial segment in the country, which is exciting. And And I think what I would share is, I would share that two things. One, are you prepared to make struggle your best friend? Are you prepared to shift your mindset on how you view struggle and look at every single one as something that's going to teach you something that you're going to apply when you meet the next one, and that you're going to share with everyone that you surround yourself with? Because if you're willing to do that, you're going to increase the probability of accelerating whatever dream you have disproportionately. Right? So I would ask them that question with the hope and the encouragement that it would then encourage them to reflect deeply as to whether or not they have the courage to do that. Because if you're not willing to do that, then maybe you're better off staying where you are.
Makes a lot of sense. What's the word success means for you?
You mind if I tell you a story real quick?
Of course.
Yeah, so that gentleman, Mr. Teague, that stepped on the bus, the successful businessman that came on board the bus and bought me dinner. A few weeks ago, I did something that I'd been waiting for 33 years to do, Fernando. I bought him dinner. And I bought him and his wife a great meal, me and my brother Ed. And we shared a really good moment. And later that evening, at a launch event in Detroit for my book, and there was a great group of people there that I had the opportunity to speak to, I brought him up on stage and surprised everyone, and they gave him a raving standing ovation. It was a real special moment.
That's so beautiful.
One of the things that I share in the book is, for many years I hadn't told him the impact that his kind act had had on me. And when I called him and I told him how his act of kindness had helped change my life, it was a real special moment for both of us. And it was a beautiful phone call. Well, a few days later, he sent me a note. And in that note, he said, "Bobby, I don't mind telling you how many tears I shed before and after our phone call. You made me feel like my life had mattered." And Fernando, I tell you that story because at the end of my story, and I hope it's not too soon, I hope that a lot of people can say that I made them feel like their life had mattered. And if I do that, I know what I want on my stone. All pro dad and husband, wonderful abuelito, and helped a lot of struggling kids and veterans. Right? If I do that, I feel like I spelled that letter out in bold and capital letters.
That's so inspiring, and it tells a lot about you, actually. Very few people are capable of that sensitivity and give back in the way that you give to this gentleman that was so important in your life. And that tells, a lot about your parents also, and the sensitivity that you were able to develop as a kid in that environment, and how you took all that, put it in a beautiful wrapped box, and now that's your life.
Thank you.
Who is a person or figure beyond your family or relative that you admire the most in the world?
Well, that was easy. My dad, Don Jorge, the Mexican John Wayne, Fernando. My dad taught me so many lessons growing up. He was a very, did you say a part of my family or a part, not my family?
A part, but that's okay. If your dad is that person, that's okay. I can take it.
Yeah, my dad is definitely, my dad was definitely that person for many, many reasons. But outside of my family, I'll tell you, is a gentleman, and I actually wrote about him in the book. His name's Dr. Joe, and Dr. Joe was a gentleman I met in the mid-'90s when I was in probably in the middle part of my professional leadership career before I started my company. And, more than anything, he really challenged me to become the person that I imagined and become become compassionate, become kind, and really develop myself in a manner that allowed me to build a kind of culture and leadership that I've been able to experience. But one of the things that Dr. Joe taught me early on, Fernando, was that you have no right to change anyone before you're willing to change yourself. And that stuck with me for a long time, because whether it's entrepreneurism or leadership, I've been talking about both during our conversation here. That's why I put the first part of my book is, who am I? If you can't answer that question with clarity and surround yourself with people that are going to give you the unvarnished truth and kindness about how you impact them, then you're not going to get to the next critical stage of leadership, and that is impacting the stories of others. It always starts with that deep reflection in the mirror of who you are and who you're becoming.
Is there a habit that you have that you consider fundamental in your personal growth, like meditation or whatever, something like it is important for you?
One of my
habit,
one of my routines, one of my habits.
Yeah.
I practice gratitude. I think gratitude is hands down one of the most powerful emotions on the planet. And I rarely start my day, Fernando, without filling out my gratitude journal. And I'll write down in my gratitude journal what I'm grateful for and why I'm grateful for it. Real simple. And if in there I write about someone who I'm grateful for, I make it a point to tell them. And practicing gratitude has changed my life and my perspective in a manner to where it's really helped me be present and focus on the things that I do have versus the things that I don't have. And because I think I use this phrase in the book, we're all one phone call away from being on our knees, and you got to live in the moment. Mm-hmm. So I think that's deeply important for people that are on their entrepreneurial journey, because it can be very overwhelming and stressful.
Right. I was thinking about Seneca, the Roman philosopher. I kind of always ask this question in one of his books. He says, life is long if you know how to use it. What do you think about it?
There you go. That's right. I couldn't agree more. Dr. Joe, one of the things he's always repeated to me is, I hope you die young at a very old age.
So wise.
Very wise.
Yeah.
The first time he said that to me, Fernando, I did a double take, and I'm like, okay, wait a second. What do you mean? You hope I die? Oh, I get it. And so I'll often pay that wisdom forward when on people's birthdays, I'll tell them, I hope you die young at a very old age.
Right.
Be a student. Enjoy the journey. Be present. Laugh. And, I get the opportunity to speak to a lot of veterans, having served in the Army. And, a lot of times I think entrepreneurs, it's hard. I get it. Leaders, you worry a lot. However, they get to solve some of these problems that they get to solve. And so I think it would serve them well to practice gratitude so they would get perspective, because they're not like a lot of these soldiers that are off fighting for us. They don't feel the warm air of an explosive. And most of these great people that are your listeners and entrepreneurs and leaders, they're not putting their life at risk every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to solve some of the problems that you get to solve. And I think